Picture this. You buy a huge, beautiful ranch, a piece of the American dream, only to find a nightmare lurking beneath the soil. That's what happened to me. I'm just a simple rancher. Or at least I was, until I stumbled upon a pipeline buried on my land. A pipeline that wasn't supposed to be there. I did some digging, literally and figuratively, and discovered the local Silver Creek Homeowners Association had secretly run it right through my property to feed their fancy new development. No permission, no easement, not a single word to the previous owner or to me. My first thought wasn't anger, but curiosity. Where did this water come from? I traced the pipeline back to its source, a natural spring nestled just outside my property line. And guess what? The land it was on was for sale. A mischievous grin spread across my face as a plan began to form. It was a long shot, and it would cost me a good chunk of my savings. But the thought of teaching this arrogant HOA a lesson was just too sweet to pass up. So, I did it. I bought the land, the whole parcel, spring and all. For a few weeks, I let things be. I watched the water flow to their manicured lawns and pristine pools, knowing I held the key. Then, one sunny Tuesday morning, I decided it was time. I drove out to my new little plot of land, found the main valve, and with a satisfying heavy creak, I turned it off. The flow slowed, gurgled, and then stopped completely. Silence. Back at the ranch, I waited. I didn't have to wait long. A cloud of dust on the horizon announced a visitor, and it was a visitor in a hurry. A luxury SUV tore up my driveway, spitting gravel, and screeched to a halt. Out stormed a woman who could only be the president of the HOA. Let's call her Cynthia. She had the haircut, the designer sunglasses, and a face twisted in pure, undiluted rage. "What do you think you're doing?" she shrieked, marching right up to my porch. "You turned off our water. That's theft. I'm calling the police." I just leaned back in my rocking chair, took a slow sip of my lemonade, and said, "Ma'am, I think you're on my property." This, of course, only made her angrier. She whipped out her phone and started dialing 911, her voice shaking with theatrical fury. "Yes, officer, I need you at this address immediately. A man has stolen our community's water supply. He's cut off the water to hundreds of homes." She was putting on quite a show, pacing back and forth, describing me as some kind of crazed water bandit. I just sat there, enjoying the sunshine and the unfolding drama. This was even better than I had imagined. About 20 minutes later, 2 police cruisers rolled up my long driveway. 2 officers got out looking cautious. Cynthia rushed over to them, pointing a trembling finger at me. "That's him, officer. He's the one. He's admitted to shutting off our water. Arrest him." One of the officers, a calm, seasoned-looking man, approached me. "Sir," he said, "we've received a report that you've tampered with the local water supply. Can you tell me what's going on here?" I stood up, putting my lemonade down. "Afternoon, officer," I said calmly. "There seems to be a misunderstanding, but it's not on my end." I gestured toward Cynthia, who was practically vibrating with impatience. "This lady and her HOA built a pipeline through my private property without any legal right or easement. They've been taking water that, as of a few weeks ago, I now own." Cynthia exploded. "He's lying. We've had that water line for years. It's ours." The officer looked from her to me, his expression unreadable. "Sir, do you have any proof of these claims? Proof of ownership for the land and the water source?" This was the moment I'd been waiting for. "As a matter of fact, I do," I said, pulling a thick folder from just inside my front door. "Right here I have the deed to this ranch, and right here," I pulled out a second set of papers, "is the deed for the adjoining parcel of land, which includes the spring that feeds that pipeline. All legally purchased and registered with the county." I handed the folder to the officer. He took his time, reading through the documents carefully. His partner looked over his shoulder. Cynthia stood there, her smug expression slowly melting away as the seconds ticked by. The officer looked up, first at me, then at Cynthia. He handed the folder back to me. "Well, ma'am," he said, turning to the HOA president, "it appears this man is well within his rights. This is his land, and according to these documents, it's his water. He can do whatever he wants with it, including turning it off." The color drained from Cynthia's face. She stammered, But what about our homes, our families? Can't just let him do this?" The officer sighed. "Ma'am, this is a civil matter, not a criminal one. You're trespassing on his property. I suggest you leave before he decides to press charges." He then looked at me. "Sir, are you sure you don't want to file a report for trespassing?" I looked at Cynthia's defeated face and shook my head. "No, officer. I just want her and her illegal pipeline off my land permanently." The officers escorted a sputtering, defeated Cynthia back to her SUV. She shot me one last hateful glare before speeding off, leaving another cloud of dust in her wake. The police gave me a nod and left. The silence that returned was beautiful. The aftermath was glorious. The HOA tried to fight it, of course. They sent lawyers, who sent threatening letters. My lawyer sent back copies of the deeds and a bill for the illegal use of my land for the past several years, plus the cost of removing their pipeline. They tried to sue me for water rights, but the case was thrown out of court so fast it made their heads spin. The judge basically laughed them out of the room, pointing out that you can't have rights to something you've been stealing. The development was forced to truck in water at an astronomical cost. Property values plummeted. Residents were furious, not at me, but at the HOA for their arrogance and incompetence. The whole board, including Cynthia, was forced to resign in disgrace. Eventually, the HOA had to pay a fortune to reroute their entire water system, not to mention the settlement they paid me for the trespassing and land usage. And what did I do? I sat on my porch, watched my cattle graze peacefully on the land I fought to protect, and enjoyed the sweetest, most satisfying glass of lemonade you can possibly imagine. Sometimes, the best way to deal with a bully isn't to fight them on their terms, but to buy the ground right out from under them. Thanks for listening to my story. It just goes to show you should always check your property lines. Don't forget to like and subscribe to Karen Conflict for more tales from the ranch. See you next time.